Welcome back. The Offload Delay podcast is officially live. Our first live pod, and what a guest we have to start this pod out with. Army Kris. What a guest to start out with. A veteran of our Canadian Forces, a fellow podcaster, just a weapon of an individual. Can't wait to bring him on. We're going to talk some real life stress situations for us in the frontline world. Myself as a medic and a firefighter, and Kris in the armed forces. He's going to explain his titles, his roles, his deployments. I need to warn everybody, there could be some triggers in these stories, some emotional, some stress triggers, just in case. It's my diligence to announce those. So I'm going to say this is a rated R podcast, although we have a promise from Kris that he's going to talk about shortly about a swear jar. We're going to bring Kris in right now. Can't wait for everybody to meet him.
My man.
Mr. Kris, welcome. Thanks to coming on the old live Offload Delay. So good to see you, bud. How are you?
Good, buddy. You too. We're finally doing this.
Yeah, this is a long time coming. For those people that aren't aware, I originally intended on having Kris on the show Remembrance Day. So over a month ago now. And I had some major technical difficulties I was dealing with. We had a great show lined up, and I wanted to pay my respects forward to you and all of our veterans that day, but I can still do that today. So thank you. Thank you for your service. We're going to get that out of the way right away. And a thank you is so minimal at this point, but it's all I got right now, Kris, and I'm glad you could come on and join.
I appreciate the opportunity, Brad. I really do. I know you've been trying to put this together, some technical challenges and shit like that. Oh, there's one. All good. Yeah, no, here we are. Saturday afternoon, your first live show. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, probably not going to get a whole lot of viewers, but we know that. We're both new to the podcast world. You've been out probably almost a few weeks before I was, but we're both part of the Dean Blundell network. Been a great network to get started with and been very supportive. And you're definitely rolling. And we're going to get into that a little bit later with your fantastic success and how far you've come in a few months with the podcast world. So for everybody out there, Kris, I believe you're 24-year veteran of our armed forces. Is that right? 24 years?
Yeah, 24 years.
And during that time, you had three deployments, but 2 to Afghanistan. Is that right?
4 deployments. My first one was 92 to Cyprus, followed by Bosnia, 2003, and then 2007, 8, 9, and 10 in Afghanistan. Yep.
And when you were in Afghanistan, that's the one we were kind of talking about most. You were a member of a team called the Quick Reaction Force. Is that right?
Correct.
Can you tell everybody what that is? Because I really had no idea, but it's definitely a stress-inducing deployment and a stressful job. So
for sure. I ran the counter IED team. So IEDs are improvised explosive devices. I'm sure you guys have seen them in the news, the roadside bomb thing. I don't like that phrase, but that's what it's often referred to by mainstream media. So our team had 3 lines of operations. One was to train troops in counter IED tactics. One was to defeat the enemy, basically go get the bad guys that build and in place IEDs and take out that network. And then the big one, the day-to-day grind, was explosive ordnance disposal operations, basically defeating the device. So that team was embedded within a quick reaction force in Kandahar City that consisted of other assets as well, obviously gunfighters and an armored ambulance detachment.
And you've seen some things. We know this. You've seen some things that no people should see. We both discuss our job-related stresses. We can call them PTSD. Some stuff leads to PTSD. But there's so many levels of stress and definitions. It's hard to narrow it down to a specific topic, but I specifically want to talk about the difference but similarities in our jobs as frontline medics, firemen, police officers were in the civilian world compared to you, especially in this quick reaction force team where 99% of the time, I'll be honest, I'm responding to calls to strangers. I'm answering a page, a tone, something that is being called to us from an outsider, and I have no clue who they are. Now, these calls aren't always pleasant. They're not always enjoyable, and they can be stress inducing. But most of the time, I don't know the individual. That is such a different situation for you in your role with this quick reaction force team, correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
So, am I right to say that you are often or were often put into situations where you knew you were responding to your own colleagues, your buddies, your brothers and sisters?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much we either responded to IED events that, or gunfights where the guys needed extra support. Most of them were our own guys that we trained with for, and had worked with for over a year by that point, or had knew each other career wise coming through the military. Or with we also support a lot of Americans that were operating in the city, and there's other countries that were operating in the city, and you get to know these guys in passing as the tour progresses. So it's, yeah, I'm responding to guys,
Yeah, that's
guys I work with and know. It's imagine your situation where all you were doing was responding to other first responders and
yeah.
other, it's a different level of
So
stress.
how do you, Kris, how do you get yourself when you're in those roles, when you're actually deployed, you're out there, you know that you're sitting there, you're waiting. How do you get in the mindset? What do you personally do, or what was part of the training to get anybody involved to potentially respond to their own coworker in their worst time of their life, in a tragic situation, in the trauma, in the traumatic theater, if you will?
Well, hey, you got a viewer. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, man, right at the beginning, and I did 2 tours in counter ID. It's we tell the guys coming in for their first time that 50% of the guys that come back suffer from eventually PTSD. And automatically expect that there will be casualties, because statistically there were every deployment. 158 Canadian soldiers and 7 civilians lost their lives in Afghanistan over the 14 years we were there. And about 70% of that was IED related. So for what I did, I automatically, and this is tough to do, is accept that this is a reality. And then it's basically, when you're there, it's front sight forward, which is just stay mission focused and stay on task. You're busy enough. You can't get inside of your own head. You have to just, and this sounds cold, okay? But
It's not
it's
cold.
the
It
only way
sounds
you
very
can do it.
familiar. It's the
You
way
have
we're all
to.
trained.
Yeah, this is the job. Everybody that's over there knew going in of the risk to human life and the risk to the local nationals. That's even harder when there's children and stuff that get, collateral damage. That's the way it's going to be. If you don't want that, you're in the wrong career.
I
So
agree.
I
But
mean, you
we
could tell
really do look
yourself
at,
that shit all day, but it catches up to you. And I mean, we could talk about that later.
yeah, and as responders, you are so trained. I know that we are, that we don't look at incidents the same as the general population. Like when we show up to even something as simple as a car accident in our world,
Yeah,
I don't walk up to that accident the same way somebody without the equivalent training would. I'm focused on different things, and usually the effects of what I've been dealing with, if it's significant enough, hits me later.
sure.
It's kind of a retroactive or retrospective look back. But while you're in the moment, just like you say, you are focused, you are task driven, and you are trying to do what you're there to do, and that's it. And you're worrying about the details of it later,
Absolutely.
right?
That's exactly it. It
Yeah.
is, I need to do this, and this to get to whatever my desired end state is.
I
And
just I
there's
think
no
before we go
time.
further, we got Danielle that wanted to thank you for your service.
Well,
And it's
thank you,
important when we
Danielle.
get anyone watching, any audience people out there, that we actually acknowledge every bit of support they're giving us or you. Yeah, and cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to everybody out there. Okay, so my calls are also more in the civilian world, what I call after the fact. retrospective kind of calls that the incidents occurred, were called out after the fact, but you're quite often on the front line of an active situation.
Can be, yeah.
We
do
so
a lot of,
you're having to worry a little more hostile environment. But what I think is very interesting and very relevant is our training is so similar.
yeah,
And that's what we're alluding to there. We basically are trained to do a job, and we're trained to absorb the emotional aspects of it later. It's just inherently obvious. It would cripple us, would it not? It would paralyze us to not be able to push some of those emotions aside while we're trying to do the job that we're trying to do.
Well, you touched on something right there, emotion. So, I mean, I used to tell the guys, because I was the team leader, when guys get emotional, I said, well, do you hate the enemy? Yeah, I hate the enemy. I said, you shouldn't hate the enemy. You shouldn't love or hate. There's no room for emotion in that space. It's entirely has to be about, what do I need to do? Emotion will get in the way of a tactical decision or of a critical decision. So there's no room for it in the moment, which means you're putting a natural human instinct aside, which creates those stressors that will show up later on in life. But at the moment, you have to be there. You have to not allow emotion, fear. You're already running with adrenaline high, and it's that fight or flight mentality kicks in, but you have to bury it and stay on task.
And let's be honest, once we're in those situations and we've been training with certain individuals, certain teammates, certain platoon mates, certain colleagues, there's no bond like it. Once you've responded to these calls with individuals who you've been, I'm going to bring this up. You got a buddy, JT, that you often talk about, JT Ferris, who was supposed to join us today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, work gets in the way.
He's a city of Edmonton paramedic. And during that deployment, he was the ambulance crew commander. So he ran the ambulance detachment.
And we're going to have him on. We're going to deal with JT directly, but I'm just showing some pictures here of you in the theater of your deployment, your assignments. And I know you posted this one. This was with you with some of your American colleagues.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain to anybody who hasn't been in a extremely stressful, traumatically stressful situation, the bond that you can develop with another individual if you've been through it together, if you've worked through these calls together. There's no bond like it.
And the only people that understand it in my mind are military people and first responders, be it police, firefighters, paramedics. That's because they're in those life-threatening, high stress situations where critical thinking and the decision you make could either kill somebody or save somebody on a day-to-day basis. So there's no other way to explain that.
And a lot of these people I've lost touch with over the years. I've been in the industry long enough. You've been in it many years. You've been accompanied, worked along with, had the privilege to be beside many valiant individuals, I'm sure, as have I. And it could be years apart before I see these individuals again, but it's an instant click. It's an instant, like time stood still. You're always on, you always have that connect with that individual that you've been in the battle with, that you've gone into the trenches with.
Yeah, we had a 10-year reunion thing last year from that deployment for we lost a bunch of guys on the 30th of December, but we got everybody together 10 years later, and I hadn't seen a lot of them in 10 years. And it was like nothing, no big deal. You just you leave off right where you left off, or start where you left off the last conversation. That bond will always be there. And there's no awkward moment where we're getting to, to know each other again.
Yeah. There's no lag. There's no lag. There's no latent period there, right? Yeah, it just kicks right into where you were before. And I honestly tell people when they ask the best part of my job, they often think, oh, you've saved a life, you've delivered a baby, I have several times, and you've done valiant, amazing, indescribable things yourself. But to me, honestly, the bond and relations that I've developed with some of these coworkers and getting to know these individuals on this, that's the most rewarding part of my work. It is. It
I
truly
agree.
is.
Yeah, and that's what I miss the most.
We see the worst of society, and we're working sometimes right along with the best of society. And it's such a dichotomy. It's very hard to explain to people, as you say, who aren't in it. It's a unique thing. We have a viewer right now, Danielle, who thanked you for your service, who agrees. It's looking like she's in healthcare. She says, you touched on it. You deal with the effects of these afterwards. Anyone in healthcare who is witnessing death or dying, you learn to compartmentalize because you have to. And as you say, and I'm glad we have agreement there. It's just, it will paralyze you and prevent you from doing your work. And you know what? It weeds those out, does it not? It weeds out the good from the bad, from those that just can't do it.
Yeah.
Because you have it or you don't. And the unfortunate part of these jobs, quite often you don't know if you have it or you don't until you're in it. You can only practice so much.
Yeah, these jobs we're talking about there's no, you can't have people who are not cut out to do it, especially when you're in those situations where, you know, we're talking about human life here. I can't have a player on the team that's not either A, competent, or B, is just not cut out for it because they can't.
That's right.
They can't mentally wrap their head around what is happening and what we need to do.
And you're often only as good as the person beside you.
Yeah, I had to bounce a guy off my team on week 2 over there, but I knew he wasn't going to make it. And my bosses at the time, and I know you've touched on challenges with leadership or management.
That's coming right next.
Yeah. And I said, I walked into, here's a little mini war story. Not really a war story. Before we rolled out on that second deployment, I basically went into my boss's office and I said, this guy, trust me, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we'll be coming back here to the main base. He was not going to last out there. He might have made it 10 days and then created some reason. I went, you don't need to create a reason. You shouldn't be here. And I put him on a Chinook helicopter and sent him out, and they replaced him because he just didn't have the parts, man.
And that's the reality of these positions, especially your roles there, where there's no room for wishy-washy, kind of marginal. You're either in or you're not.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he's a shitty soldier. I'm just saying that role is a very specialized role. That team dynamic and what we do. He's just not cut out for that. He did exceptionally well back in the rear, you know, logistics and stuff, whatever they tasked him with. Great guy, but he could not go and be a frontline guy. And
you're kind of touching on in a near future, I have some coordinators lined up from paramedic programs at colleges around the province. And I have a bit of an issue lately, and this is another topic altogether, but you've hit on it here, where these jobs aren't for everybody. You can't just make somebody do this job, train them, and they're going to be good at it.
No, and I mean,
everybody that enters needs to realize it may not be for them, or they're not the talent that you need.
And when I exited the Army, I didn't leave on good terms with the system because I didn't like the direction a lot of things were going. I mean,
so let's perfect transition right there. Perfect. Okay. Because I honestly love my job. I have 2 jobs. One of them is, again, I'm full-time with the fire department, and I consciously made a decision 10 years ago to leave full-time paramedics because of the lack of respect in the paramedic world, the lack of support, the lack of, in Ontario, how's this for a fact? Paramedics in Ontario are not essential service. How does that grip you? It's absolutely true. And with that, you lose a lot of negotiating, arbitrating, basically power behind you. And it's something that's been pushed away for.
How does that work, Brad?
The employer's sucking and blowing.
Paramedic not be an essential service?
Well, they were never designated such by the province. And when the career established, whenever it finally branched away from fire in this province, because they didn't apply to be an essential service, no one has ever pursued it since. And now that it's progressed to this far, the employer can really, I always say that this way, they can suck and they can blow. So if you're an essential service, one of the things you gain, there's a lot of gain there, but you gain arbitration power as an employee. So if I want to be, say, something like your buddy JT in Edmonton, if I work at a paramedic service similar in size to him, I'm usually automatically awarded the luxuries that that individual would have with their department that they've already fought for. We don't have to fight for it again. Right. None of that exists in Ontario with the paramedic world.
So
now,
how did that come to be? Like,
that is because the
somebody
it's a political mess.
Somebody dropped the ball.
That's right. And now it's a very tough ball to pick up and run with. And we're always looking for someone. There's so many of us now, you don't know who should take the lead on this. Is it the unions? Is it the employers? Is it the government? It should be everybody. I think it warrants a tremendous political campaign, just awareness campaign. We have daycares that are essential, and they should be. We have transit systems that are essential, and they should be. But what happens now is we are also bound. If we get in, it's a complicated thing. And again, another whole topic for a podcast. But if we wanted to go and fight something, we're legally not allowed to strike. So now we're not essential, but we can't strike. All we can do is go to a minimum number of service vehicles. Say we can go to 50% of the ambulances, and we can reduce non-essential use. So transfers to medical appointments and that. So they're winning on both ends. And this is a whole nother argument. But to me, this is a lot of the stress that's caused. And you left on bad terms. You said on not terms that you were happy with. And a lot of it was to do with the brass and the system and whatever was going on with you. My biggest discontent right now is not the stress that I'm enduring the most is not so much from the calls I'm doing. That's there. That's always been there. And there's mechanisms to deal with that. It's the lack of support and lack of direction and lack of leadership that we're experiencing.
But that creates a whole new problem. That makes your job, your actual execution of your work when you're out in the field, on the street, responding to calls, harder.
Yeah, it does
because that support mechanism is failing. And you could talk about this all night.
You could, and it'd be great.
Talk about it all night.
But we're talking about stresses, right? So here's another level of stress. It's not going to the calls. It's not responding to your colleagues. To your
problem. It's unnecessarily adding to a problem.
And unfortunately, the employer problem, and I think you would agree, never goes away. You do a bad call, the bad call's done. And then you deal with the ramifications of that bad call. I could go to work and not do a call for 4 hours. It would be rare at the beginning of a medic shift. But I'm still stressed because that management, that employer, the lack of support, the false promises, the
under-resourced.
That's right. And that's a big one for the paramedics. I'm sure JT's the same, your buddy in Edmonton. Eating lunches on our laps if we eat. Can you clear for this? Can you hurry and do that? Can you hurry and do that? And the paramedic world is very bad at it. They're very much under-resourced and under-supported. And I left 10 years ago to join my buddies on the fire department because they are essential and they have it figured out. They have the support units. I truly love my job as a medic. I really do. But the shenanigans, the bullshit around it is getting to be so taxing that I'm seeing the best ones around me crumble, and it's killing me. The real good ones, the vets like yourself, you left on terms that you weren't happy with after all those years and everything you did, and that's just wrong. It's just wrong.
I mean, a lot of it's me, and a lot of it's just like that's not how we move forward. And I
could go. I think we'll do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah,
I need to.
There's two.
So I knew
never come back.
And I knew you'd be a great subject, a great topic, a great subject provider, because I knew it would just keep escalating. We have so much information, so much resource, so much value to give back, and so much experience to share with people when we talk about stress, that there's so many levels and layers that people truly don't understand unless they're in it. And I think I knew we would be going through these exact things right now during this discussion. Was where do we even stop? Not where do we start, but how do we even stop? I want to say hi before we move on. This is my buddy Greg. Kris, this is Greg. He says he's a little late. That's all right. He got out alive. Greg is my former colleague in the fire department. Greg, it was on my platoon. He was a senior firefighter, one of the guys I looked up to. One of those guys that when he left, you were really disappointed he left, but he got out unscathed as much as he could. As much as he could. He made this behind me. This carving of my pup behind me, that dog.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So he's got some good stuff going. He's actually going to be on the pod too a little later. We're going to talk about the post-work world and how you survive an entire career with the first responders. But yes, we got employer stress. We've got our own PTSD from calls. We've got all different types of stress. Let's talk about life stress. So we're unique in that we chose. No one forced us to these roles. We're agreed on that, right?
Absolutely.
We agree that you and I went out and said we are going to participate in this. I even changed careers way back when to try and get involved in it, even to the level that I did. But then we add that stress onto life stress, and it makes it very difficult for us sometimes to make people understand how simple life stress can affect you and I a lot differently than it may affect the average individual. And it may actually be heightened with us. You have a great story about, like, when you come back, I want you to try and explain, if you've been on deployment, I can't imagine being on all that time. You're up, you're elevated, you're responding, you are heightened. You've got that response, that fight or flight in you for so long. How do you come back to civilian life? What do you do? How do you adjust?
Well, that's the thing. So everybody obviously responds differently. But I mean, coming back and hearing people whining about taxes, whining about potholes or traffic or all these stupid things, or the lineup at the Costco to buy all your stuff, it just grates on me. I'm like, you have no idea. You live in this little utopian bubble provided by people that protect you, and you just pissing and moaning about things that are not, and those are things they can control.
Right.
That's what makes me mad. If you're whining about things that is fully within your control, and I get it. People get stressed out easier than others. Some people they lose their cat mittens for 5 minutes and it's the end of the world. I understand that. I'm not here to judge that. It's just,
Yeah,
I didn't react well to that. I kind of had to go hole up for a little while until I calmed down and realized that this is the world they live in. This is their stress. And there's nothing I'm going to say to change. It doesn't matter if I could tell them 50 war stories and what I deem as real stress. And if they've never experienced it, they're never going to relate to it. So, I don't know.
What I find difficult is we don't start our day out with the same baseline of stress as the average non-responder individual. And it's hard sometimes for those around us who aren't responders to understand that, like how something can actually escalate with us or become so relevant to us, mainly someone else's stress. Like when you see these benign little things, these complaints, how insulting it can be to us. I find it insulting after a while, where it's like you are worried about how long the Costco line is, and because so-and-so butted in front of you, and they have no idea sometimes how much more stress can be involved in a day.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, I was turning into that guy too, and I went, man, I need to take a break.
Yep.
So I decided I'm taking 6 months off work to do all this stuff.
And you're doing fantastic.
Everybody that gets stressed out, valid stress or invalid stress, I don't judge. If you're have these stressors in your life, or you have anxiety or whatever it may be, I just handle it the same way I handle it over there.
Yeah.
Work the
Good for you.
problem. Break down the problem into bite-sized pieces rather than looking at this whole huge weight of life on you, and then figure it out one piece at a time. You know how you eat an elephant? You start at the asshole and keep going until you hit ivory. That's it. Don't try to eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So, great advice.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I tell people that are coming unhinged to basically breathe first. Most people don't even know how to breathe properly. It's true. Try kickboxing. Stop breathing, pass out. Breathe, and then start breaking the problem down into manageable size pieces and work the problem. That's the, and I don't know if that works. It works for me.
It's tremendous advice. And Danielle is back with a question.
Go ahead. I can't read Danielle. I'm very vain.
I've got it on here. She's asking if there's any mental health support for vets when they come back from these deployments. What kind of resources are you given? Yeah.
So the Military Family Resource Center is a resource for your family while you're gone. You're going to hear, this is actually a great question, but it's a long answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So when you release, you have access to Veterans Affairs Canada, which is it's a government organization. So I'm not dumping on the people that work there. The people I'm dealing with there, it's a one-on-one. They assign you, we'll call it a case worker, manager, whatever. And that's your VAC rep. That's who you deal with all the time. People that are still in the system, there are programs now. These are a long time coming. You need to understand, in the 90s, when we first started really getting hot and heavy in the Balkans, in the former Yugoslavia, most people know about Afghanistan now because it was on the news all the time. It was our last big show and our first real war since the Korean War. But there was a lot of stuff going on before that and to this day, and they've slowly gotten better. So are they effective? It depends on who you talk to. But it starts with the individual, seeking out the help. You can't come whine to me and say, the system's screwed up, blah, 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 if you're not willing to at least try and use the resources that are there and then determine the effectiveness of those resources for yourself.
Well said.
Or not.
Absolutely. And I know that on your podcast, your amazing podcast, Fire for Effect, you address somewhat, or you will be, correct me if I'm wrong, your interpretation of the state of veteran affairs right now in this country, the Department of and I think it's an important topic. We could dig into that again as much as we do any other topic here. But if there's more information, I encourage people to follow your show. Get in and there'll be more details involved.
I've touched on Veterans Affairs, and you've met the guys on my show. Thanks for the plug, bro.
Yeah, it's absolutely great.
So I have a panel of guys. The format is I do one recorded, like over an hour long theatrical production.
And that it is.
And then I do just a live one every Wednesday, and I have a panel of guys with varying backgrounds. So I get a wider, what's the word I'm looking for?
Spectrum, like you got a more
broader spectrum of experience and opinion. And we've ripped on Veterans Affairs. I've said good things about them, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go all in on it until I can get somebody from Veterans Affairs or a former employee of Veterans Affairs. There's no point in dumping on somebody or an organization where you haven't spoke to them.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that as an outsider?
Absolutely. Yep.
Based on what we see, especially as responders or as common non-military citizens in the community, the Veteran Affairs Department, the mental health support units are not enough. We see a large amount of mental health troubled veterans in our community to this day. And I know we could go on, and I'm not going to elaborate anymore, but I'm going to say from my view, and probably from Greg's view who's watching, and from anybody else who's out there, it's a sad state at times, and it's almost overwhelmingly, the proportions aren't reflective of a general population. They're always weighted heavily towards those veterans who have served our country so dearly.
And let's leave it. Government organization, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's leave it at that. Your podcast, again, is what I would highly recommend people following along. It's an amazing podcast. As Kris said, it's a production. He has some very talented speakers. He's got some very insightful people. And in fact, when he says it's a production, he's not kidding. This is a studio. This is impressive, Kris. You got full on, this looks like this could be CNN headquarters. This could be NBC. Like, you've got multiple cameras. You've got a background, you've got multiple chairs. Like, this is a full-on production. Good for you. And you started your podcast. We'll get to that. We'll get to your food here. You started your podcast 3 months ago.
Yeah, I'll
and
give you
you're
the
running.
background on that.
So
Quick,
let
in 90 seconds or less. Basically, I've always wanted to do this, and since we're talking about stress and everything, I'd finished my last contract job, civilian job, and I needed a break. And
yeah,
I had the means to take a break, and I took 6 months off. There's only a month and a half left, which wow, that flew by to do this. And I spent a good chunk of money on all the equipment you saw there and everything you guys can't see right now behind me.
right,
To get this going because I didn't want to just do an audio thing. There's 1.9 million people doing podcasts. What are you going to do differently?
right.
And I really want to make film. One of the reasons I bought all that stuff is I want to do a mini documentary with the help of Bryce Hooper and a couple other guys on homeless veterans. And I want it to be good. So
Well, there you go. There, we were just talking about mental health and veterans. There you go. And a lot of them are in the homeless sector.
that's how it loops in.
So exactly. So let's. I can't wait to see that. By the way, you are just making, like, I kind of started. Let's call it, for in the grand scheme. You and I started our pod around the same time, and you are just so far ahead, so much leaps and bounds ahead in the technology and the productions and that, and it's amazing. And I wanted to share this message. There's a TNT comment. So I'm
There
not
they are.
sure if it's both of them. Kris is awesome. He's a huge help to us. So right there, you're paying it forward already. So you've taken the studio, you've taken your podcast interest, your desire to help and spread your message, and now you're helping all your fellow podcasters. And I know for a fact, from talking to Lachlan Cross from your local radio station there, and from talking to Dean, who runs our network, Dean Blundell, that you were approached and encouraged because you are the right messenger. You are the one to do this. So the support is there, and I can see it. It's shining through. And your podcast and everything around it now, like you say, it's a production, is booming, and it's quick. And you've given yourself a window, and you're sticking to that window right now. Like, you're not just laying back going, I got another whatever month. You're full steam ahead. And Positive Mike's put in a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Do we need to say more?
There you go,
Thumbs
Mike.
up. There's the shirt. Yeah. They've been a big support for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, this has really been good for my mental health for the last 6 months, is putting all of my energy into this. And then, being able to help other people with their podcasts. Mr. James P. White, produce and edit his, and help Tara and Tina get theirs going, and anybody else, whatever. Because
and you've been 3 months.
Yeah,
amazing.
Man.
And we know we have a message to deliver out of our own heads as well. Like, we basically have knowledge. Dean approached me as well. I didn't know if this was the thing for me. Who's going to want to watch my stories? Who's going to want to hear what I have to say? But there definitely is very specific knowledge in your head, in my head, and stories and feelings and emotions that people are curious about and people should know about. And we can actually represent those around us. If one person watches, or 1,000 or 1,000,000, it doesn't matter. And as you said, it's therapeutic to you, correct?
Yeah,
you're getting a lot of it
on the head. I'm doing this for me. I don't care if anybody. I mean, you do and you don't. I'm doing all this is for my own. You get to the point in life, like, I'm 50 years old now, and I'm like, man, I've been busting my balls for everybody else. Me and the Queen are even now. Okay, I'm done with that. I got a chance to go do something I want to do that's for me. Like that, to be able to get up every day. And it'd be great to be paid to do this. Like, it'd be great to be Joe Rogan and spit bullshit all over the world every day. We'll come to that later.
Yeah.
And to do what you love and leave money out of it, just to be able to do something I want to do every day. And like, how focused and motivated you are, and how better you are up here by doing something you want. That's what this has been about. And if you gain followers and you can help other people chase that, where am I going with this? Do this because you want to do it, not because you're worried about likes or comments. I don't read the comments. I don't care. I mean, I don't read the YouTube comments. They've all been positive, I'm told. I don't read them. I don't care about that. I'm doing this for me. So I'm not on Facebook.
I don't know about you, but I've been surprised at the amount of friends I've met in this.
Oh yeah, man.
Are we going to call it an industry or in this hobby?
I call it a network.
This network, exactly. And I've never met you face to face, but we've been friends for as soon as we started to chat a couple months ago, and we instantly were helping each other out. And there's another guy that's been a real help on this network, and he's actually becoming. I'm getting nervous knowing that he's watching now. So we got Ryan Lindley on.
Oh, Ryan's on. Uh-oh.
And he says that
together now, man.
You are a strong man because you were able to produce Jimmy's podcast without without falling asleep or stringing yourself up. So there you go. There's Ryan adding his 2 cents. To back up, for anybody not familiar with this podcast, you have a friend who is part of the local radio network, who is a little bit height challenged, who has a tremendous interest in Star Wars, who decided to do his own podcast on things that are very much not interesting to a lot of people. But he had interest and he had determination, and he is one heck of a guy, and he's your friend, and you got his podcast going.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
An extreme knowledge. He has knowledge of Star Wars that's more than most human beings should have. But it's got a following, and he's getting the hits and the feedback that he likes. So it's a good thing.
So as you said, you do it for yourself. He's doing it for himself. And if people want to come along for the ride, this is what surprises me all the time, is people do. If you're doing it for yourself, you're genuine, correct? Like you're actually out there spreading a message that you truly believe in. You're not doing it for the likes. You're saying, this is the way it is. This is the way the world works for us. Come along and watch. If you want to hear it, great. If not, let me bring this up. We missed this. You made a promise.
Oh, yeah.
On social media. And you're sticking to it. Anybody out there watching? We've got Mike's Brewery.
Bring that up now while you got a good followership.
We got TNT. We've got Danielle out there. We've got everybody. Anybody that knows Army Kris isn't going to believe this is live, because I don't think I've heard a single swear word.
3.
I've had a couple, but you made a pledge. You had a swear jar pledge before this podcast, which I thought was fantastic, to support one of our local. You asked me what my interest was, and I thought that was so noble. One of my biggest groups, one of the biggest groups that I advocate for, is the group called I've Got Your Back 911, and they have a website, and they've got they're a big social media campaign. They've got a lot of merch. They've got they have trust funds. They started out as a simple hashtag in 2014, I believe, to represent the mental health of first responders and responders in general, including the military. And they have access there and many resources for all of us responders to receive mental health help, suicide prevention techniques. And they're also involved with therapy dogs. They've been responsible for partnering up various clients, if you will, or individuals with therapy dogs in need. And you agreed. Every time that you threw out one of those words, you were going to throw some money in the jar. But you've been amazing. Danielle says she's counted 2. Down at it right here. Danielle counted 2, Danielle, and you're at 3.
Well, when you rewatch this, you can be the official count. So
okay. Yeah.
I pledged for every time I swear, I will drop in $10. So if I'm at $30, that's pretty dismal. So to get past this, so we can move forward.
Yeah.
I like to swear. It's part of my language. If you don't like it, I understand that.
Yeah. So I already gave a disclaimer at the beginning. We're good. We're good.
So I'm gonna bomb a few people here.
Do you want to read Ryan's comment first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on with Ryan Lindley. Can you read that?
There you go. Yeah, I can read that.
So if you read that out loud, we're probably another $30 in the jar, but I'll let you decide if you want to read that. Yeah. Okay. So keep going.
I want to jump on here. So everybody just give me 90 seconds of your time.
Yeah. I'm going to give you the screen.
Give me the screen.
All right. I'd try and give you some music, but let's just go with the screen for now.
I don't even know how to do the music.
There you go.
So yeah, there's a lot of people out there that piss us off and things like that. And we're trying to raise money to support I've Got Your Back 911. And I do it through swearing. And this is to prove that I can actually go through a pod without swearing. but I like to swear. So let's start at the top. Fuck politicians. Fuck the UN. Fuck the World Health Organization. Fuck Greta Thunberg. Fuck Neil Young. Fuck anti-vaxxers. Fuck Uber-vaxxers. Fuck Chris Guy. Fuck Joe Rogan for his mismessaging with the power that he has. But I'll cover that another time. Fuck that Ghislaine Maxwell bitch who is helping out that Epstein guy that's on trial right now, and he can fucking burn in hell too. Oh, fuck the right. Fuck the alt-right. Fuck Richard B. Spencer, head of the alt-right. Fuck the left. Fuck Antifa. Fuck mainstream media. Fuck Beyond Meat. Fuck bike lanes in Edmonton. Fuck light beer. And anybody who doesn't like this, fuck you. There you go, man. Count those up.
Honestly, that was incredible. That is going to probably be the most replayed part of this pod. Guaranteed it, hands down. So we got a bravo from Ryan. We've got
I can swear again. There's got to be a couple $100 right there. I challenge everybody to match.
We've got the ladies at TNT with an epic, and Danielle, bravo. But I'm hoping Danielle was counting. She was at 2 before we did that. So
I want to know what Danielle does. She's in healthcare. Danielle, what do you do?
She's alluded to healthcare here. So if she wants to put up there what she does, we'll welcome her. And TNT wants you to take a bow. Good for you. That's a tremendous.
I like to smoke instead.
And on behalf of I've Got Your Back 911, thank you for looking out for all of us as well. You're doing a fantastic job. So let's talk about something where you can speak. You can swear if you want. You can do whatever you want. Now we're free to roam.
Listen, we broke the ice on that. We're good.
That's right. A big stressor for me, a big stressor in my job in this line of work is something that I once was, that you once were. It's new hires.
Yeah.
And it's not stress that I'm trying to say that they're lesser than me. No means. They're not lesser than me. We're all there. We're all doing the same thing. But it's extremely stressful. If you can imagine in the paramedic world, we're partnered up. There's 2 of us generally in each truck. No management, nobody around. And I walk in a door and I meet somebody for the first time who's half my age, possibly the opposite gender, new, green, and they should be green, very inexperienced. But now I have the stress of knowing even what to say appropriately to somebody in a generation that I wasn't even growing up in. Not knowing if you ask someone what they do for fun, if that's offensive in today's world, can you say that to somebody? And there's the stress of being the senior guy, and you were a leader on your quick reaction force team. I'm sorry for the term leader. There was an actual designation, but you had a leadership role. And that adds stress to you because they are also your responsibility.
So let me play devil's advocate, or not devil's advocate. Let me ask you the question.
Yeah.
Because you listed a few different categories here. So first of all, you're worried about the whole, how can I phrase this? I don't want to offend anybody. What's offensive these days? I don't know what the millennials, Gen Z people, that's not my thing. And I don't care. But that's an issue, right? Because somebody puts in a harassment complaint, which is a huge thing. If you're following the news, it's not a good time to be the chief of the defense staff. They're all getting fucking nailed with sexual harassment charges.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. I'm not saying that's driven from the hashtag Me Too thing or whatever, but I get it. And that throws you off your game. So if that's in your head, that's a stressor because it throws you off your game. Or is it because you're concerned that they lack the technical skills required as a medic to do the job? Like, is that?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes to the first and no. Well, there's the initial stress of not knowing how to deal with someone of a different generation. The someone, as you say, what's appropriate to say? What's harassment? What's the world that I learned in is not the world that they're learning in now. That stress to me is tremendous. It's also the stress. I'm competent now. I've been in the job long enough that I've been working alone at certain times on Zoom cars or on first response cars. I'm okay with myself and my skills.
Yeah.
I'm worried about them hurting themselves or hurting the patient or getting hurt. I can always intervene if I'm there. But if I'm driving and they're in the back, there's the stress of that's still our patient. And I stress over that the level of care is right. It's just new hire stress. What's something that that's
got to be normal with everybody with your experience level, right?
It is, but I was also the new guy, and I try and look back to being
Yeah.
respectful that I was new. I learned, but I try and become that person that I looked up to when I was that age. We got Greg Sullivan on here, the fire uh, partner that I had for many years, and he's retired now, and he's the one that a lot of us respected. And you basically look up to those individuals and just say, "How did you get this far? How did you put these pieces together? I just need to figure that out." And now that I'm kind of learning that uh, I've flipped over to the more senior side of things. I'm trying to be that individual now, relaying that. I just get it's a different stress. We've talked about PTSD, responding to calls, the stress from the employer, the stress from real life outside of work. New hire stress to me is a whole nother entity.
100% it is. Like when I would get a new guy, especially if we're going into you know, a real theater of operations. Training's one thing. You can stop after a training exercise and go, well, how do you think that went? What could you have done better? But when it's out and it's real, I get some guy brand new who shouldn't be there or has the minimum skill set to be there, if you will. And the first thing I'm thinking is, fuck me, this guy's still shit in yellow. What am I supposed to
Yeah,
do with him?
yeah,
But if, like you said, I was a new guy, 1988, you're a new guy at some point.
Mhm.
So, and it takes an old guy, an experienced guy to make that wet behind the ears person. He or she, doesn't matter what age they are, it's irrelevant. We're all going to get older, and there's always going to be somebody you don't understand 20 years younger than you to
yeah,
get them that experience to
yeah,
perpetuate the trade and what you do. Like
yeah.
there's no other way it works.
No,
But I get the stress that you're talking about
I,
because you got
I
enough stresses, man. You already have enough, and that's
and
one
so do
more
you.
thing.
And I find the stress is greater when they don't own the fact that they're new, that they don't admit that they're new, that they
Well,
are
that's
green.
scary.
And I'd rather them just tell me that I don't know. I don't know how would you do this, or I don't know what did you do, or just saying I don't know is a whole lot better than saying bullshit, making this stuff up, doing whatever they have to do. But I'm just bringing it up because I need a bit of advice for this individual. I just wanted to say that the on the picture there in the civilian clothes, that is my
There you
boy.
go.
That's my son Jake, and that is
Bravo.
him holding his enlistment certificate to the Canadian Armed Forces, and he leaves us in January.
Welcome to the
Super
suck
proud
young
moment.
man.
Super proud moment. He got into the air traffic controller program, and he's flying out of the province in January. But I just, from you, a respected, well-seasoned veteran, just one word of advice, one line of advice for anyone new, whether it's him or anybody else.
Listen, be stuck on receive, not on send.
Very good words. And that isn't unique to the armed forces. That's life, right?
Yeah.
Quite often people need to just realize sometimes a little bit of input is a lot better than the output.
People aren't good listeners anymore because they're either keyboard warriors with minimal real life communication skills anyway. They
Yeah.
live in Facebook named Terry, or they want to impress and feel like, I belong. So they're not afraid. They are afraid to go, I don't know, as you
Yeah.
alluded to earlier.
Yeah. And it's okay. I think that's the responsibility is on us. And Ryan brings it up
There
here
it is.
in a comment. You can take it personally because you, as a preceptor or a senior staff, if they fail or they do bad or they don't live up to what you're hoping, it reflects on you sometimes, and it's hard. There's a stress there with that.
Yeah, I
Danielle,
guess you're a preceptor in this case, is what we're
yeah,
talking about.
sometimes no, I'm talking about a colleague, but there's also the preceptor level is a whole nother one, right? Where we have field training for anybody that doesn't know. If you want to become a medic in Ontario, you take the college course for 2 years. And then you end up doing 480 hours on an ambulance with a crew where you do every call, every single piece of paperwork, everything under the scrutiny of those medics you're working with. So there's the stress of being the proper preceptor as well. Danielle finally answered our question too. She was in long-term care, 12 years,
wow.
hospice and palliative. So I need to thank Danielle.
Much respect.
Exactly. I agree.
Danielle.
Cheers to Danielle.
A lot of respect anybody that takes on that level of responsibility and sometimes burden. So
that's right.
So cheers.
We need these individuals at all levels of care. They're not always
Yeah.
emergency responders. And I have a close relation in my line of work as a medic with long-term care facilities. We're there all the time. And some of the work these individuals have to do is just so admirable and so not enviable to me. I don't know how they do it. So kudos. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah,
I think
thank you.
I will definitely relay the message to Jake. Listen before you speak, and listen and look and learn, and then decide your action and decide if it's even necessary at times. Sometimes people are talking and there's really nothing that needs to be said.
Hey, tell me the last time listening did something wrong for you. Exactly.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. So we have all these stresses. You've been tremendous as being able to demonstrate how we have very similar stress avenues, the details of which are very different, but they ultimately end up to similar roads, paths, outcomes. What do you do outside of work? Well, other than the podcast, we've talked about your podcast. You've got these bad boys sitting in your garage. What are we looking at there?
You're looking at a 2003 anniversary Dyna lowrider on the left and a 2007 Street Glide. So I ride bikes with my veteran cohorts.
And that's your outlet. But wait, you're missing one. What's that red thing in the back there?
That's to move snow.
Is that an Arctic Cat? Is that a four-wheeler? You live in town, don't you?
I do.
But let's show everybody this. This is showing
I'm an Alberta redneck, man.
I can only describe you as super efficient and organized, because anyone watching, listening, this is a city driveway, and that is a four-wheeler with a plow on it that just, I honestly made me laugh. I count 2 lines of plow there beside your truck, and you were done.
I brought my shovel out, Brad. And
you don't mess around. I love it.
Man, I'm not doing that. I'll fight that plow out.
But if anything's going to say military, trained, definitely dedicated to be efficient, do things the most possible, most effective way possible, there you go. That's you.
Being a kind neighbor, I do clear out the whole cul-de-sac. So all these people that live in here, because the city does nothing, because why would they?
There isn't much snow in Edmonton, is there?
Right?
There's not much snow in Edmonton anyway, is there?
We got more snow in one day than we got in the whole year last year.
You guys have been hit pretty hard already. You've been hit pretty hard, but
so I built up a big mountain so to help guys get their cars out, right? So I'll rip around the whole thing and try to move as much snow to the middle as I can.
So that's military precision, bud. I saw that picture. So I have about a 380-foot driveway, and I admit I use a four-wheeler, but I just had to break. I thought that was phenomenal that you're like, you know what? Why can't you do it in town? Good for you. You are whatever you do it right.
Minimal expenditure of energy to achieve the greatest result.
Right. And you like to pay it forward. You said you'll do the neighbors' work, you'll do the neighbors' snow, you'll help them out, and you'll even feed homeless individuals that enter your city that you've never met before. And you won't just feed them, you'll feed them steak and shrimp.
That's right. When you want to talk about meeting guys in our network on this podcast, I'd never met Bonzi, but I knew he needed a place to stay. He had to get out of the States because he was in a gang war in South Central Los Angeles. And there was a video of his boss
against the females,
the shootout and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the guy needed a place to crash. And I'm like, yeah, man, I got you. No problem. I'll cook you some good food, give you a place to stay. He's got a great dog. A little bit of bullshit for him to get here. So he's at Locks now, recovering from antivirus or
whatever the next thing on Bonzi's list is, right?
Dying right now.
But what is this?
Weed, so I got to go get more.
This is shrimp steak. You don't mess around. Again, if you're going to do something,
I wanted to give him a little bit of a taste of Southern California before he left. So that is, I got a Wagyu X guy from Lakeside Dairy, all local. We got some Baja shrimp, tequila lime Baja shrimp. There's some Mexican rice in there, blistered cherry tomato, and some sliced up.
Unreal. For anyone that's not watching the pod that ends up just listening to the audio, we just showed an amazing picture of some high-end steak, shrimp, rice. To me, like, we're talking top-notch dishes. But what I'm getting at here is cooking one of your things. You love it?
Cooking's been a big thing for me for a long time. Two reasons. One, I need to learn how to cook, so I'd stop eating crap food. I went to Bosnia in 2003, and I ate on the economy, which is all what we call organic. There's no fast food there. When I came home, I couldn't stomach fast food. Like McDonald's would make me puke. So
Yeah.
that's why I learned to cook, not why I cook. The
You
why
got
is about, and we talked, off air. It's a stress relief because you focus on it. You're in your own space. It's creative. You like the end result. It's a big time. It's a big stress reliever for me.
I agree. I find
Not Arby's, no.
that's definitely not Arby's. You have a friend that
I love Arby's, man. I don't know.
We'll eat enough Arby's for the both of you, though, right?
You want to know why Lachlan's got a 322 Uber rating? It's because whenever we Uber home, he makes the guy go to Arby's.
Drive-through?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even better. I love it. Now, I'm just going to show you got some. This was the Grey Cup. So we got Mr. Lindley watching the pod here.
Yeah,
this was when his Tie Cats were taking a bit of a shit kicking at him. But what do you got? Some smoked product? Or
that was all done in the Traeger, I believe.
Nice.
Did the ribs. It took 5 hours to do those ribs. It was a dry rub on the ribs.
Looks amazing.
And then, oh no, the chickens I did in the active fryer because it was like 30 below.
Look at that, though. Diverse, multitasking.
That's football food. That's Sunday football.
I agree. And then paying it forward. This was U.S. Thanksgiving. I think. Were you at JT's?
JT's Bar and Grill in Edmonton, voted Edmonton's #1 dive bar. I know the owners, and I cooked, I want to say 4 turkeys that day for them.
Good for you. And it was a snowstorm. I remember hearing you guys on the radio. Or
I'm back there. I'm back there New Year's Eve to cook prime ribs on 2 Traegers for their New Year's.
Anyone in the Edmonton area, I'd invite them to head out to see what you're bringing. And kudos to you. You're one of these guys
all you see on Instagram are my dogs or food.
Yeah, and you're a dog guy, so that's another plus in my book. And it's funny. I often discuss pets with the responders, and so many of us rely on dogs or pets.
I do.
I do too. It's my out.
They're not service dogs per se, but
No.
I know what they do for me.
Yeah.
I'm picking them up tomorrow. They're at my ex-wife's right now. We share them.
Yeah,
and
good for you.
They're awesome.
I agree. And if you're a dog person, you got to be a good person. I know Lindley's got Charlie McSpaniels. We got Greg Sullivan watching. He's a dog guy. He's often had a lab running around his house wreaking havoc. I know TNT. I know Tara. She's been showing some pictures of pups. She's had pups, and her sister has an amazing dog down in the States that she shows. I missed a message earlier. Sorry, Positive Mike had to go. They're jumping to the WHL game. So you got a game that
playing today too, isn't he?
Was it today? Yeah. Was this with his son?
I think it's in an hour.
So
yeah, he's playing with his son. This is his first game or his first match back, I think.
Yeah. What I want to ask you is, we could go on forever, and this has been a great chat. I really appreciate it. We were able to keep it light after getting a little serious.
Yeah.
I'm sure just your looks alone are going to up this rating of the pod. It's going to be something that I have to keep in mind to keep bringing you back.
Smoking, drinking, and swearing. Yep.
I've got your back 911.com. They're going to be ecstatic that you had your rant, an epic rant, a rant of all times that I will be trying to feature on my Twitter feed, but no one will be able to hear it with the edits in it. It'll just be a string of beeps. I asked my guests the same 3 questions that I have on. Okay. And it may or may not be anything to do with what we've been talking about. I just kind of wrap things up by asking them 3 questions. It kind of lets us see another side of you, or the same side that we've seen, but just further. If you could be a fly on the wall in any situation, in any place, in anyone's house, in anyone's office, wherever, who would it be and where would it be? The reason I asked this question is this Offload Delay podcast is almost supposed to mimic being a fly on a wall with us responders in our rooms, in our headquarters, in our offices, at the hospital, wherever. So I asked that of everybody.
If I could be a fly on the wall in any office anywhere,
Yeah. Or anything, not an off, just
or anything.
in any situation, if you could just kind of hover around, listen in, look over, and just be a fly on the wall. We can come back to that.
Well, no, okay. I kind of got two. I got a funny answer. It'd be like
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau's office and how he makes any decision, but I'll leave that.
That's a quite valid answer.
It would be for, and I'm looping back to that doc I want to do. When a homeless vet wakes up on the street in 30 below weather and says, how am I going to get through the day?
Yeah, well said. Well said. I don't understand it either. I don't know how the human drive is that strong.
That's what you just asked me is what I want to actually go do, is be a fly on the wall in that guy's life for a day.
And if that's what you want to do, I think you're the ideal candidate to do it, to show us all. I really do. I think it's an ideal.
Give her a whirl. That's a good question.
And you're in Edmonton, so you're going to find that minus 30, no problem.
It's here now, man.
You're a foodie. You're a foodie. So the second question, you're allowed one food, and it's not in a can. What's the one food you're going to have the rest of your life if you're only allowed one thing?
Elk.
Elk, really? The old natural guy, the wild meat.
It's very, very
Never
healthy.
tried elk. I've had venison. I've had bear.
That food is the
various
healthiest
game.
It's elk tastes the best in my opinion of all the wild game.
A little fattier?
No, it's very lean.
Because that's the hardest part of wild game cooking, is it not? Is it's so also lean.
It's so lean, so you have to cook. You cannot cook elk meat or deer meat, any lean meat like that, the same way you would cook beef, because the fat, it would be very, very dry if you fuck it up. So,
well, I love to try it, and if I come visit you guys, I really want to come out your way.
Buddy. I was
ditto down here
in November, man. So
the last thing is kind of something that is often different for first responders and for those of us that serve the public versus the non-public. So it's an interesting question. I need to know, I have a feeling I may know, what's the smelliest place you've ever been? And does it involve a small podcaster?
Okay, well,
I'm not going to feed you the answer. I just want you to tell me. I have a feeling that's what it'll be.
So I'll answer that two ways. Domestically, it's a place called the Den of Sadness, and it changes its scent from time to time. And internationally, it's definitely Kandahar City.
The city itself as a whole.
Oh, the whole thing. It's
as a home to it.
They don't, people, if you go into a home, and we've had to go into homes, and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
They'll just have a hole in like a closet, and they shit in that. They all have dysentery. There's human waste in every alley, graveyards everywhere. It's in the alleys and the streets. Like, they just don't have the infrastructure to move it. So it just smells like thousands of years of human shit.
I got it. It's funny though how so many of these answers, so many of them, including my own, come back to humans. It's always humans, whether it's the Den of Sadness, which I was the grand winner of. If anybody doesn't know out there on listening, there was an individual.
Yeah, you won.
There was. So I won a weekend to stay at the Den of Sadness, which is a descriptor for one of the individuals on a local radio station's abode. And part of the prize of the Den of Sadness tournament contest they had, it doesn't matter what it was about, was you get to stay there for a weekend. And it was rigged, but I won. It was rigged so that they knew I wouldn't come out from Ontario, but I'm coming. So I told them there's a rain check waiting. So when I get there, I'm going to give it a shot. But I find it.
Survive that science experiment, I'll come get you.
I told him he needs his own medic anyway there, so we'll have a good once over. But it's very revealing to me how so many of my guests, responders or not, the smell is often human related, not animals, not chemicals, it's usually humans.
It's interesting you bring that up, because one of the first triggers for memory is scent, be it good memory or a bad memory. A smell of a perfume can remind you of an ex-girlfriend, or a bad smell can remind me of a shitty place I was. It's always the first. It's never the visual or a sound so much
You're right.
as a smell. And most guys I know, dealing with PTSD, in support groups, the first thing they're going to say is it'll be a scent, burning. Maybe it's burning
Amazing.
garbage, or
Well, for
I
you,
don't want to get too
Kandahar.
heavy on that. But
Yeah, but for you,
I'll leave it
Kandahar,
there.
right? Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
it's human related. And
Yeah.
with that, I think I need to finish again the way I started, and thanking you
Thank
as a
you,
vet,
man.
and all of our veterans. I don't like saying thank you, and I told you that because it's not enough. It seems so minimal for how much contribution you provided, but it's all I have, and it's I would pay it forward 100 times over as best I can. So thank you, and thank you for coming on this pod. It's
Thank
been
you
great.
for having me, Brad. We're definitely going to do it again. And
Absolutely.
I got to get on mine with JT, or
we're going to have JT on. It'll be interesting to introduce a military medic and now a current civilian medic with our discussions. And with I just loved your armed forces insight. It just gives us another level of view into the incidents we respond to. We didn't get into details. We don't need to. We don't need the particulars for this particular talk. The specific talk we're having is just about stress. Danielle, but I wanted to thank you. I'm sorry that it didn't work out on Remembrance Day. That was my goal, was to salute you on Remembrance Day. Hopefully, in lieu of that, you'll accept this. Thanks. And always a thanks. And all the best on your show, man. We're watching. Again, for anybody that's it's on the Dean Blundell Network. It's Fire for Effect. And it's an amazing pod. Kris does live shows. He also does recordings with in-depth interviews with guys that have been there, done that, are in the trenches, have been in the trenches. And it's absolutely incredible. And it's real talk. There's no swear jar because he'd be broke, but it's real talk. And that's the important part. One last pick. Amazing. Amazing pick. You told me before. Tell everybody.
That is at Normandy in France.
Just amazing to know what was in front of you in that picture.
I was standing on Juno Beach. I was trying out new hairstyles, so I fucked with the camera and ended up with that. But that is,
I can only imagine the hairstyle. That hairstyle matched the goosebumps on the back of your neck, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was at Juno Beach, man.
Good for you. I love that pick. I've used it a lot on our promos, and I'll continue to show it every time you're coming on.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to zoom you out.
Zoom me
out.
Just
want to thank you.
Everybody,
Danielle.
thank you for watching, and keep watching Brad's show. It's got lots of good stuff.
Danielle, Ryan, Tara, and Tina. We got Greg Sullivan. We've got all these guys watching, all saying thanks and great job. So kudos.
All right. Cheers,
thank you guys as well. Yeah, we'll chat soon. Going to zoom you out. Going to finish off here, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
Enjoy the golf.
I'm gonna
enjoy it. All right. Well, we did it. We got through a live pod. Couldn't have had a better guest. I need to thank Army Kris Dlouhy again for his service, for his dedication to the podcast world, for his service to his country, and just being an all-around great guy that even shovels his neighbor's driveway with a four-wheeler in town. Just amazing. Just amazing. Hopefully you can follow along at Offload Delay. You can like or share under Offload Delay at Instagram. We also have Offload Delay. I'll show you right here our socials. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Hopefully on YouTube you can subscribe and you can put your alerts, ring the bell for us, smash that subscribe button. And to a lesser extent, Facebook under Brad Hopper. We are part of we're available once we're not live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and deanblundell.com. And again, you're watching us live now on YouTube. We are part of the deanblundell.com network. Can't say enough about these guys. What a great bunch. All of us podcasters on it. He's got a great team. I've met some amazing individuals and can't say enough about what they've done for us. And I've got your back, 911. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for what you do and for having some great swag. We got some money coming your way, I think, and it's going to be great. Army Kris is going to come through with his swear jar. For now, everybody, hope you hit that like button. Let the likes come in. That's how we're supposed to be getting paid. There's no money here, folks. Not for me. I'm just part of a network that's growing, and I want to support and help share the message of the greater good. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. For now, I'm going to close out with the regular exit song, and thanks for tuning in. We'll be live again soon, probably within a week. Stay safe.